How you weren't the MVP of that one, I don't understand. You get the rush that led to the safety. You had 2 sacks in that one. I mean, like, Eli snaked you twice. He snaked you twice out of an MVP.
Yeah, he knows it.
Overcoming the odds, rewriting the playbook, delivering under pressure. The MVPs of small business lead their teams to victory all year long. And Visa is proud to provide playmakers everywhere with more tools to help grow their business and help them achieve even greater success. Because the more people we can empower, the more we all win. Visa, a network working for everyone. Hey everybody, what's up? Trey Wingo here. Welcome into another episode of Half Forgotten History. I've got a treat for you today. Our guest is someone who should have 2 Super Bowl MVPs, but they always give those to the quarterbacks these days. He does have 2 Super Bowl championships, though, because of what he did on the field. Giants defensive end Justin Tuck, part of that Super Bowl 42 Giants team that took down the then undefeated New England Patriots and did it again a few years later. His story is fascinating, from where he started in Alabama to how he got to Notre Dame and the things he's doing now post-career. We really think you'll enjoy this episode with Justin Tuck. Let's start here. What would you have said, Justin, if someone came up to you when you were a kid in Alabama, just learning to play football, and said, well, here's what's going to happen. You're going to be so good at this that you're going to get a scholarship to Notre Dame. You're going to get drafted by the Giants. You're going to play and win 2 Super Bowls where you should have been the MVP in both of them. Let's be honest. And then you're going to get a degree from the University of Pennsylvania Wharton School of Business. And, oh, by the way, go on to work for Goldman Sachs.
Listen, man, I am a guy that truly believes in, this country gives us a platform to do great things. But if you had told me that, as a kid in Kellington, Alabama, I'd have been questioning a lot of things about your mental sanity. I don't know if I'd have believed that one.
What was the hardest part for you to believe when it was actually happening? Like, where was the moment when Justin Tuck said, man, is this really my life?
Yeah. I think the hardest part, honestly, was, the Notre Dame part, because that was the first leg of it, I guess, or the first big leg of it. And after that, it was kind of like, I just felt like if you put the effort into it, the opportunities are going to continue to come. So Notre Dame was the first big opportunity, right? And from there, I just felt like once I got to Notre Dame, then I feel I got the confidence that I can play with the best of the best in this sport. So getting drafted to the NFL and playing well in the NFL wasn't as quote unquote surprising. No one had ever, from around my way, no one had ever went, to a place like Notre Dame. I had a lot of friends that had been to Alabama and Auburn. That was kind of things you probably took for granted, because if you were good, you just felt like you was going to get an opportunity to play at those schools because they were in your backyard. But Notre Dame was a kind of a global school that we all kind of looked at. And when I got the opportunity to go there, people looked at me like, I don't know if we can make it there, right? That's a different level of student athlete. So, I would say that was definitely the first leg of everything else to come.
So what was it about Notre Dame that made it the place you wanted to go? Was it the challenge of what you just said, of not just being a football school, but a real student-athlete experience?
Yeah, I mean, I was very blessed to have friends and family members who had been in, had did exactly what I wanted to do, play in the NFL. Adelius Thomas, Jamario Moon, Gerald Wallace, all guys who grew up in my neighborhood.
It's a good neighborhood.
I'd seen kind of make that leap, right? So for me, I think the hard part, or the uncomfortable part, was I was going away from home for the first time. But I also realized that, NFL, just sports in general, but the NFL stands for not for long. That's what I continuously got preached to from all the people who I had a relationship with. And if you think about it from that perspective, right, even for a guy like me who played 11 years, I retired when I was 32 years old. What are you going to do for the rest of your life? So Notre Dame was that place where it was like, you're going to play these great teams. You're going to have a great opportunity to play, sports at a high level, but it's gonna be even that more demanding on the education side, on the education front. So that was probably the kind of the hardest part.
What was the sort of aha moment then when you were at Notre Dame? Was it the balance of those two things? Was there a certain time where you realized, okay, I can do all of this, even though it's a different level of overall experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was pretty quick, honestly. especially on the football side of things, I think, how I got recruited to Notre Dame and then walking into that place and, everyone's talking about they're from, this place in Florida, this place in California. And I'm from this small town in Kelton, Alabama that people that live, 20 minutes away had never heard of it. So me trying to explain to people, I grew up playing here and playing this, and like they didn't know any of the schools, right? So they, just human nature means like you probably are not prepared for this big time of a football. But like when you step on a football field, everything for me was equal. And going out there and just proving my point as far as being, just as athletic, just as good as everyone around me. That was the easy part. The hard part was trying to balance the two of, the three of my first time being away from home. Academics was very hard. I don't know if any people think that like, oh, Notre Dame just gives out scholarships, but they don't. And they expect you to go into classrooms and work. And then, the combination of those two things and, still trying to be the best football player I could be was something that was new to me. So I think by the end of my freshman year was a time where it clicked to me and just like, you know what, I can do all this. And I got a lot of resources around me to help me do it as well. So.
Well, clearly it worked out because you left there with almost every defensive record possible, sort of rewrote the record book when it came to sacks. They also gave you a great nickname, the Freak. Who gave you that nickname at Notre Dame?
I think it was my strength coach, Mickey Marotti. Javon Curse was the Freak, and that's kind of how I never liked that nickname just because I never felt like I was Javon Curse-ish. When you think about just when I saw his stats coming out of Florida, I think he was 6'6", 265 pounds, around a 4'4" or something like that. And I was like, that's a freak. And then my junior year, I was 6'5", 270, and ran a 4'4". So, but I never really liked that nickname just because I felt like it was him. My mom nicknamed me He-Man as a kid, and I always liked that one better.
He-Man. All right, we'll go. I like that. We'll go with He-Man. By the way, the thing that most people don't know about Javon Curse, if you've never met him, he has the world's greatest FM DJ voice of all time. Right? Like Javon, when you talk to Javon, hey man, how you doing? Right? I mean, like he has soul in that voice.
That's true, actually. That actually is true. Now every time I see him now, that's the first thing that's gonna click in my mind when he says, "What's up, Chuck?" And I'll be like, "Yo, man, you should be on radio somewhere."
Yeah, like doing an all-night jam session at 3 a.m., at 98.3 or something. That's when you hear Javon Curse, that's the only thing that'll be in your brain. So clearly things went well for you at Notre Dame. And you lasted until the third round of the draft when you came out in 2005. That was not what anybody thought was going to happen. What changed there?
Well, I was coming off an ACL injury, and this is my fault because I was the guy that honestly, if I wouldn't have tore my ACL, I would have highly thought about coming out my junior year. And you call the NFL and they tell you where your slide to go and all these things, and they told me top 15 pick. But then I tore my ACL up, so that kind of changed everything. So when you have that I guess that thing in the back of your head of like, I don't want to let anything lapse, right? If I'm a top 15 pick in my junior year, then I don't want this knee injury to anybody see any weakness in that and my draft status lapse. And doing that, I came back a little earlier than what I should have did. And some tendonitis set in my knee late in that year, and I ended up missing the bowl game. And it just wasn't right. But I still was like, listen, I've graduated. I'm leaving. I didn't want to come back for which would have been my senior year on the field. I didn't want to come back to Notre Dame and do that because I'd already graduated. I wanted to move on. I was ready to move on. And just so happens they have this thing called the combine where you get tested. And my right knee tested like 75% weaker than my left knee, or something like that. And that put a lot of that kind of red flagged me to all the teams in the top. I was drafted in the first round. So that's kind of what happened. And I was a little upset about it just because I knew I was better than, 99% of the defensive players that was taken in front of me. Or at least I thought that was. Everyone thinks they're the best one, but I felt like I was really better than, a lot of guys who were taken before me. And honestly, it was a blessing in disguise because I kept that as a kind of a monkey on my back throughout my entire career. If you ask some of the coaches when I stepped on in a locker room at New York and the Giants, Coach Merritt, who's in Kansas City now, he loves telling the story of the first time he met me. I was sitting in my locker and I was pissed off, and he asked me, "Why are you pissed off?" And I was like, "Well, I think there was 11 defensive ends taken in front of me, or something like that." And I told him that's why I'm pissed off. And like all he could keep telling me was like, "Hey, yo, man, you're in New York City, blah blah blah." But at that time, I'm 21 years old, and I didn't want to hear that. I wanted to be that guy who went top 10, top 15 pick, because I knew I had the talent to do so.
But I mean, I think that most guys that achieve a lot of success in this league do carry that chip. I mean, Tom Brady still talks about where he was picked. I mean, so I understand what your coach was trying to tell you, but at the end of the day, whatever's your fuel has to be your fuel, right?
And that's what came out of that. Because when I talk to coaches, that that first impression of me was, this guy is hungry and he wants to prove people wrong. He's in a good position to do so. And at first they might have thought it was arrogance, but as they got to know me and got to work with me through the years, they felt as though that was one of the blessings that made me, the player that I ended up being. Just because no matter what, right? Like, people always ask me about the Super Bowl rings and so on and so forth. And I always tell them I don't wear the rings. And they're like, why? And my line is literally because I have 8 other fingers that are upset with me. And that's just how I've always approached it, right? It's just, that's not me being cocky or arrogant or anything like that. It's just, I've never been impressed by anything that I've done. Just because I know that there's a lot more in the tank, regardless of, what we're talking about. If we're talking about, finance, if we're talking about philanthropy, if we're talking about sports, if we're talking about me being a better father or husband, all these different things, right? I've never, the day that I'm satisfied with those things is the day that I should be leaving this earth.
So your first couple of years, you battled some injuries, and I think 2007 is going to be considered your breakthrough year, even though you only started 2 games that year.
Yeah, it's hard to start when you got a guy like Michael Strahan on one side and OCM on the other. So
correct.
Yeah.
But I think everybody looks at 2007 as your breakthrough year, not only for what you were able to do in that rotation with OC and Michael Strahan, but also, of course, what happened in the postseason. And that was the year that you guys played the Patriots, and they beat you 35-31, I think, final game of the year, first 16-0 season in NFL history, and you guys meeting up again in the Super Bowl. And, look, I'll be honest with you, I thought it was a coronation. Like, they played you guys, and you guys had lost, and, this was the ultimate team, and, Tom Brady and Belichick at the peak of their powers, they're basically F you to the rest of the league because of the Spygate thing that started that year, and they were going to extract their revenge. But I remember sitting next to Sal Paolantonio in the first quarter, in the first series of that game for the Patriots, and watched you guys just plow through the offensive line of the Patriots. And Sal and I looked at each other and said, this game may be different than most people think. When did you know in that game that, hey, this defensive line, the NASCAR package, was going to be the difference in the game?
Well, I knew that before the game started, way before the game started. Listen, we played them in the last week of the season, week 16. I got to get used to saying last week of the season, week 17 now, because it's the change. But week 16, we played them. We already knew what our playoff slot was. We knew no matter what happened in this game, we was going down to Tampa Bay. But obviously, you do not want to cheat the game, right? You want to go out there and give 100% because we didn't want them to go 16-0. At the basis, we didn't want to lose. But we didn't spend as much time preparing for them as we normally would have been preparing if we needed to win that game to improve our season or something like that. So it was kind of a mixed bag of, a little bit of the base stuff that New England does and so on and so forth. But we were getting ready for Tampa Bay, to be completely honest with you. So getting in that game and having a chance to beat these guys who were all worldly, and let's just be honest about it, right? They were 16-0 for a reason. They had, all-stars from top to bottom, and arguably the best wide receiver quarterback duo ever, right? So the confidence that we came out of that game with, even though we lost, was tremendous. I remember telling OC on the sideline, or him telling me, because I was kind of upset on the fact that we lost it how we did in the fourth quarter, because we had been a team that was used to finishing in the fourth quarter, and they beat us in the fourth quarter. And I was kind of upset about that. He just kind of, as they were walking out the field, kind of celebrated. He kind of came over and put his hand on my shoulder and was like, we'll see him again. And in my mind, it was like, well, the only way we're going to see them is in the Super Bowl. And we had like this Cheshire grin on our face looking at each other like, yeah, we'll see them again. And when we got in that game, man, we had always been a D-line that entire year where we said to ourselves, this team is going to run how we run, not how the quarterback goes or the running backs go or the O-line goes. No, the D-line is going to set the tempo for this entire team. It's just how we're built. And we looked across that O-line and saw, Matt Light and Logan Mankins and all these, these Pro Bowl players, but we felt like neither one of them could block us. They couldn't block us individually. They couldn't block us double team. We just had that type of confidence in it, and we allowed it to go. And I believe, honestly, for me and my vantage point, I didn't know anything different. It's the Super Bowl, sure, but this is my first one.
Right.
So I didn't get caught up in the whole glitz and glamour of the Super Bowl. For me, honestly, walking into that stadium, I felt like I was going into my backyard and just playing football. So I never got these really, really nervous kicks. I just went out and played fast. And the energy level of that game, like I don't ever remember being tired until I got to the sideline because your energy level kind of lowers down while you're not playing. And then I was like, oh shit, I'm tired. But when you step back on the football field, it was just it was electric.
Well, and I use the term NASCAR package for those that don't remember or weren't familiar. That's a term that you came up with. Because the Giants have basically employed, at times, 4 defensive ends on the field. Like you said, O.C. Strahan, yourself, Matthias Kiwanuka was part of that. And the whole plan was, if we put defensive ends everywhere, we're going to be faster and more athletic than the guards trying to block us.
And plus, we had the vantage point. I was considered a big DN. But because of the trial and error of being a guy who, I just told the coach, I just want to get on the field. And Michael Strahan has not come out the field. I know he's in year 15, but he was very adamant about the fact that I'm playing every snap I can play because he was the guy I think he saw the writing on the wall that this is probably my last season. I want to get everything out of it. It wasn't like he was trying to say oh, I'm not letting Justin get his shine. It was like, no, I want to keep playing. And then OC, he was the young bull at the time, right? So I just said to myself, look, I don't care where you put me. You can put me as a slot cornerback. I don't care. I just want to play. So we started doing a lot of trial and error stuff, some rover linebacker packages, some me getting down in nose and 3 technique. And I just fell in love with being down in the middle of things because, one, I felt like I was strong enough to kind of, at least hold a point for a little bit on the run game in those situations, right? Obviously that was not, my advantage. But anytime we got into a situation where it was a pass situation, it was. I just felt like me lining up in a 3 technique is making those guards knee buckle. And for me, I didn't care. I was like, listen, just throw me in there. I don't care. We'll figure it out. And over time, I got so comfortable down there. It was almost to a point where I was like, I don't even want to play left end. No, let's straight play out there. Let me go anywhere I want to go within the realms of being inside of OC and straight. I don't care where it is. Just put me somewhere.
So as that game's going through, and obviously it's a low-scoring game, and by the way, kudos to Plexico Burress, who said the Giants were going to win 21-17, and Tom Brady got all offended. It was like, 21 points? We're only going to score 21?
I got an interesting story about that line, too, by the way.
Well, let's hear it.
Before we go to practices, we are all sitting around. We got, the defense is sitting with the defense, the offense is sitting with the offense, whatever. And we got the TVs on, and the interview of Plaxico is showing, and then they obviously go right to, Brady's response. And when he said we're only going to score 17 and had that Californian surfer boy swag to him about it, like it was like, there's no way. Which we understood. Listen, he did what he did for the entire year. If I was on the opposite side of that, I probably would have felt like that way too. But the worst thing for him was me, O.C. Stray, Antonio Pierce, R.W. Corda, Sam Mad Dog Madison. All of us was kind of sitting together. I knew we was going to win the game when I looked around and saw everybody's face when he said that. And it's literally everyone's face just turned into red-eyed. It was like we were so determined to prove him wrong in that situation. And we went out and did it. And obviously, you give them a lot of credit. That team, if we played 10 games, how many do we win? I don't know. It wouldn't be 10 of them, right? But that night was our night. And it was because the level of focus that we had throughout the week. I mean, like Coach Coughlin's talked about it several times about just how fast and how crisp our practices were. The combination of the veteran leadership we had on that team and the young and hungry guys, and I would even say young, hungry, and dumb guys. And by what I mean by dumb is like we didn't know how big that moment was, which allowed us to just go and play. So I mean, Plaxico called it, and we won up them. Like we didn't, and like to be honest with you, people don't know this, but it was a trap two coverage where our corner slipped down with the Randy Moss slant touchdown in the fourth quarter. Yeah. If we play that right, it's probably a pick six, or Brady doesn't throw. But
Right.
But what's interesting you say that about a crisp practice, because Eli told me a great story about the final practice of that game where David Tyree had arguably the worst practice anybody has ever had. I think he dropped, 8 balls in that practice.
Trey.
And then for him to go make that catch after that practice, Eli was like, I would have never believed he would have been the guy able to do that.
Trey, listen, it was so bad. The defense got mad at Gilbride because he kept calling plays for the ball to be thrown to David Tyree.
Kevin Gilbride, the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, we were literally on the sideline, and excuse my French.
It's okay.
But we were literally on the sideline, like, Kevin, if you don't throw that fucking play out, like, don't, literally telling him, like, do not call that. Like, seriously. I mean, like, guys were mad. It wasn't like a joke. Like, you've seen, like, the Friday and Saturday practice where, like, guys are crisp. The DBs aren't, they're not challenging the ball in the air. It's like you run your route, you get your footing, the guy goes up and catches the ball, and you don't do anything, right? So you shouldn't have a ball on the ground. That was Coach Coughlin's thing. Like, there should never be a ball on the ground on these Saturday practices. And Tyree, 8 is probably an understatement. He dropped a bunch of them.
So what was it like going through that and then seeing him make that catch at that moment in the game?
You know what's so funny, right? It doesn't even dawn on you in that moment, right? The team was so close and knit. It was almost like we expected him to catch it. I don't know how that feels that way, but it's like, for the entire year, guys, we had so many guys just step up and do. It wasn't anything unnatural, right? It was like guys did what they were supposed to do. David Tyree was supposed to catch that slant in the back of the end zone. That's the exact same play that he dropped 5 times in a row, literally 5 times in a row. So I mean, but like it never dawned in our head like he's not going to catch that play. And like for us, we saw it on the sideline. We saw it. David Tyree lines up out wide. He motions in. He's going to fake the block on the outside linebacker and slip right in between the safety, right? Seen it all day, every day, and he caught it. But the helmet catch, now that's a little different, right? But I mean, like, listen, David Tyree is one of my best teammates ever. That guy is a phenomenal dude. And when you think about it, right, I think he truly deserved it. He was one of these guys that was always sacrificing his body on special teams and doing whatever he could do to help the team win. And for him to get that moment, man, I don't think it could have, I don't think anyone better could have been the person who got that moment.
All right, speaking of getting the moments, and you and I have joked about this a couple times in the past. Like, I know you love Eli, and you're happy for Eli, okay? But in that game, you had 2 sacks and a forced fumble, and how were you not the MVP of that game?
Someone voted for Eli.
I think defensive players are so screwed these days, man. They're just so screwed.
They are. That's another argument. They definitely are. Yeah. But I'll be the bigger man in this situation. I don't know if bigger man is the right phrase, but like let's just be honest. We don't win that game. People will say, "Oh, you don't win that game without you doing what you did to Tom Brady." We don't win that game without Eli Manning, and it's the nature of the position, right? Everyone is going to give the tip of the cap to the quarterback because he has so much more on his plate, right? He's the guy who's literally running that team in a lot of situations. Do I think I deserve MVP? Absolutely. Do I think Eli deserved MVP? Absolutely. So if you think if it's a tie in that moment, let's just say it was, right? You're always going to get a nod to the quarterback, which is considering what he did on that final drive.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it. But the one thing that I was a little upset with, I'm not going to tell you who told me this, but someone told me they voted before the drive and I came in second on a losing team. I came in second to Tom Brady, right before the final drive.
Yeah.
So I'd have came in second. After the drive, I lost by 1 vote to Eli. That's what someone told me, and I was like, "Why would you tell me that?" Thank you.
And why don't you just wait till the game's over? How about that? In a one score game, maybe we don't turn in the ballots until the clock reaches 0. I think that's something that could be done.
So that one, it hurt for a little bit, but literally, I mean, like, we won a Super Bowl, and if I'm the guy that's going to sit here and not be grateful for that and think back like, I should have won MVP. Who cares? I love the fact that people keep coming up to me and saying I should have won MVP, and that's enough for me.
All right. Well, listen, why don't we take a break right now when we'll come back and we'll talk more about the second time Eli Manning stole an MVP award from you in the Super Bowl 46. Yeah. That's next with Justin Tuck. Stay with us. This episode of Half Forgotten History is brought to you by Starbucks Triple Shot Energy Extra Strength Coffee Beverage in a Can. That's Starbucks coffee that you love, ready to drink, offered in classic flavors, and now in 0 sugar. They have 4 core flavors: vanilla, dark roast, cafe mocha, and caramel, and now also offering 2 0 sugar flavors, black and vanilla. Both are 0 sugar and dairy-free. What gives you your energy? Find your Starbucks Triple Shot Energy online or at your local store. Hey everybody, Trey Wingo here to tell you that NFL SundayTicket.tv is like having front row seats to every out-of-market game all season long, every Sunday afternoon, no matter where you live. That is a lot of football. And guess what? This season you get more football than ever before. 18 weeks of NFL glory right there in front of you, streamed to your favorite device. Just picture this scenario with me. You sit down, you put your feet up, kick back, eat snacks, and watch an insane amount of NFL football every Sunday afternoon. So make your seat a front row seat and catch every second of your favorite players and your favorite teams every Sunday afternoon. Now, to see if you're eligible for this, make sure you go to NFLSundayTicket.tv/SundayReady and stream every NFL Sunday Ticket game this season to follow your favorite team, no matter where you live. Use promo code WINGO2021 at checkout to get 15% off. Exclusive discounts also available. Select international games excluded. Eligibility restrictions do apply. Compatible device required. Data charges may apply. All right, back with more half-forgotten history here with longtime Giants defensive end Justin Tuck, who also finished up his career with the Raiders. Great story there. We'll get into that. One of the great moments of all time. We'll get into that in a little bit. But, after you guys won the Super Bowl, went through a couple of seasons, had some disappointment, and then you find yourselves basically doing the same thing again after the 2011 season, and you find your way into Super Bowl 46, and who's waiting for you there? Once again, it's the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
Was there any part of you or the team, because Strahan had left, obviously, but most of the team was pretty much the same. Was there any part of you that was like, we've done this already?
Yeah, human nature allows you to slip your brain into that, right? But we at that time, I'm now in the mode that kind of what Strahan was in the 42 Super Bowl. I'm kind of the leader of the team and captain of the defense and so on and so forth. So you're smart enough to know, once these thoughts start running in your head, you're already behind, right? You're already in a losing mentality. Because there's so many different things going into this game than it was in the previous one, right? We are, in a lot of ways, the favorite in this one. Tom had talked about his opportunity to revenge that loss, that one loss, right? So I knew they were going to be, for obvious reasons, right? It's a Super Bowl, but I knew that they were going to be even more hungry to see us across the line and to kind of get some redemption into what we did, 4 years earlier. And that was the message. The message was, listen, let's do it. If we've done this already, then let's remember what we did that first time, right? How crisp the practice was, how we didn't have any distractions, how we came into this thing from a meeting standpoint, from a protecting your body standpoint, from, film study standpoint that got us to that point of playing as fast as we played in that 42 Super Bowl. That was the narrative. That was the message. And again, guys, it was very receptive to it. We had a great mix of older vets and these younger guys who didn't realize what they were getting themselves into, and it worked out again.
Well, the thing that the biggest lesson I took away from Super Bowl 46 is, and I think all of us, whether we play or watch football or cover the game, we get enamored with, oh, he did it when it mattered most. In the final 2 minutes, he did this amazing thing. One of the most important things that came out of Super Bowl 46 is that how you start a game is many times just as important as how you finish a game, because it was your bull rush on Tom Brady on the Patriots' first drive of that game that led him to, from his own end zone, throwing that pass to the deep middle of the field where there was nobody there. That's a safety. That's 2 points for the Giants, and that's why on the final drive of that game, the Patriots needed to score a touchdown to win instead of just needing a field goal to win.
I'd given this speech before the game, and I said something like, if it's on me today, we're all going to have another Super Bowl ring or a Super Bowl ring. And to come out in that first play of the game, even though it was a busted rush, it wasn't the greatest rush. It was just, I think, just wanting it more, right? Just being, having that tenacity to just keep fighting and just trying to figure out a way to get to Tom Brady, because we knew, listen, if you allow that guy to sit back there and pick you apart, you have no chance, right? So, again, that D-line, we knew that we had to come out, set the tone, set it fast. We got a great kick from Steve Williford to pin him down there, and had the opportunity to just know that, like, in the setting that they were in, they kind of put themselves in max protection. I'm like, this is not Patriots MO. When they want to run the ball, they might have tried to, like, come out in 21 personnel and or spread us out and kind of eke some yards out. They're not the team, or I didn't think they're the team that's going to, like, load you up and try to, like, quarterback sneak in that moment. So I was betting on a play action pass there, and was able to kind of sneak through and get to Tom and make him make a decision a little bit quicker than he wanted to. And luckily for us, the referee called it. Sometimes those plays don't get called. But our referee saw it and called it, and we were off to the races.
Well, that was one of the weird things about that Super Bowl, because that was the first drive. The other weird thing was Ahmad Bradshaw trying not to score the touchdown. And, we tried not to score, to just run out, bleed out the clock, kick the field goal to win, blah, 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 blah. And then, of course, he sort of fell into the end zone. What was your guys, because everyone knew what he was trying to do, and he just didn't do it. What were you guys thinking when you saw that on the sidelines?
I was glad. People argue with me when I say this. I was like, why wouldn't I want to be on the field to end it?
Right.
I never subscribed to, and I obviously, if I was the head coach, my words here would be different. But as a defensive player, I wanted to be on the field to end it. And when they scored, I mean, the whole drive, I'm sitting there telling the guys, like, listen, man, just keep your mind into this, man. We're going to have to go back and win this thing. We had all the confidence in the world that Eli was going to drive the guys down and score. That wasn't even an issue for us, especially after the Mario Manning throw. Yeah. But in that moment, it's easy to get caught up in the moment and start celebrating and cheering on your teammates, and then totally forget that, oh, we got to go back and win this thing. So the whole time, I'm sitting on the sideline. If you look at me, I look calm. I'm not, but I look calm. I'm just telling guys, keep it into it. Let's start thinking about what defenses have worked for us, what blitzes have worked for us, what fronts have worked for us throughout the game, because we're going to have to, call on all of that to, stop this guy from scoring at the end of it. So when Ahmad tried to stop, I was super excited. I grabbed my helmet and was ready to go, because we knew we get the opportunity to end this on the field, just like we did in 42, right? And
right.
I've always wanted to be the guys in those moments.
And, when Eli retired and all his clips were being played, I remember watching Super Bowl 46, and I texted you this. I said, I'm rewatching this game, and how you weren't the MVP of that one, I don't understand, because you get the rush that led to the safety, which was one of the biggest plays in the game. You had 2 sacks in that one. I mean, like, Eli snaked you twice. He snaked you twice out of an MVP.
Yeah, he knows it. But yeah, again, we don't get there without Eli. Like, the things that he accomplished that year, I think that year led off with everyone asking him if he's elite, right? And for the first time, what I saw from him was he came out and said, damn right I'm gonna lead, right? That wasn't necessarily Eli's MO coming into that. I think he just got tired of guys asking him these stupid questions. Am I a lead?
Yeah.
Just because my name is not Peyton doesn't mean I'm not a lead. And I think he was just tired of it, right? So, for him to back that up throughout the entire year, right? I forget how many fourth quarter comeback games he had, and then to have it again in the Super Bowl to lead our team to a game-winning drive, just like he did all season long, right? With the pressure of knowing that if he has any slip up here, it's magnified because one, he's a Manning, two, he's in New York City. I give him a lot of credit to step up and do what he did. So we don't get there without him, and obviously we don't win that game without him. And just like 42, do I think I played at a level, MVP caliber level? Absolutely, I do. Do I think I deserve the Super Bowl MVP? Absolutely, I do. Do I think Eli does? 100%. So if anything, maybe they can start having these co-MVPs.
It happened once.
I'll also say that maybe I some of the guys who won it after me, like Vaughn. You're welcome, Vaughn. I started the narrative.
But it's true. Like there was a time there were co-MVPs and they were two defensive players, Super Bowl 12, Harvey Martin and Randy White of the Dallas Cowboys. Before we move on to one of the greatest plays in the history of your career, which was a timeout, which was fantastic. Let's just stay on Eli here for a second because you're right. He's not Peyton, okay? And he's never going to be Peyton. But seeing him every day, working with him every day, practicing with him every day, like the thing that I take away from Eli is that he always showed up. Like he never missed a game until they told him to sit down. What's the one thing that you took away from all those years with Eli that maybe people don't know?
He never really changed. From day one. I hate this part of what we do, but everyone knows our contracts. They know what guys make. Eli made a lot of damn money, right? And we've all seen it, right? From guys who come in the league in a certain way, and then they have all the success, and things about them change, right? Whether that's their work ethic, whether that's the people they hang out with, whether that's the things they're into, whatever it may be. There's nothing about Eli that changed, right? He still showed up in these khaki slacks or slacks in general, some type of I call them golf shoe without the spikes, that type of shoe, right?
I know exactly what you mean.
Know what I'm trying to say? And when it got cold, he had his little quarter zip fleece, right? And he showed up in his Toyota that was given to him for free. And he was there every day doing the same exact things every day. And I think that's hard to do, especially when you're in the limelight like he was in New York City. There's all this distractions around you to come do this and be out in this nightlight or this, whatever. Nothing about him ever changed. And that's refreshing to see. So it made it very easy for people to know who he was because he was that guy 100% all the time. And when you talk about guys who always showed up, you just spoke on it. He always was, the guy who was working out when he was supposed to work out, eating the right stuff, being in the meeting room early, calling extra meetings with his wideouts and so on and so forth. In the off season, going to Duke and having these guys show up, all these different things that just showed the level of leadership he had because he wasn't a vocal leader. And in today's society of social media and all these other, things, people want things that go, viral or something they can repost. He never did anything that was worthy of reposting outside of his play. So it didn't make him the quote unquote sexy, figure to talk about. But he was the most consistent dude in doing what he did every Sunday. And, a lot, in today's era, that might not win over a lot of fans, but it wins you football games and puts you in situations to win football games.
He never changed, but you did change at the end of your career. You finished up with a couple of years with the Raiders, and you know what play I'm talking about. It was a Thursday night game. You guys were playing the Chiefs. You guys had not won a game. You were 0-10, which, by the way, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, let alone someone who plays professionally. Like how the Lions and the Browns those years went 0-16 and just their heads didn't explode, I'll never understand because it's just the worst feeling to never win. So in that game, late in the contest, Khalil Mack and C.O. Moore, a linebacker out of UConn, get a big sack on Alex Smith. and they're out there dancing and celebrating the sack, and the Chiefs are getting up to run a play, and they're 10, 15 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and they suddenly realize, oh, shit, they're going to run a play. We got to get back, and they weren't going to make it, and you called a timeout. And I'm telling you, the look on your face when you, like, if you could have just beaten their you-know-whats, you would have, for being that stupid.
Yeah, now that I look back at it, it's still a stupid play, 100%. No, nothing I can say to take it out of that. But I understand it, right? You just put the narrative where it was. We're 0-10, and up until that time, I never had a losing season. People don't realize that. The worst I've been in my career was 8-8. And being on that team, seeing the young talent that we had, and just the struggles that people like me and Charles Woodson had trying to figure out how to pour into these guys about just what it takes to win in this league.
Right.
It was a struggle. That was a struggle. But to that place specifically, I think they thought it was fourth down and we had won the game. Obviously, it was not.
Right.
And now you have a play where literally the Kansas City Chiefs have a free play if we don't call a timeout there. And it wasn't like everybody's thinking, oh, Justin's such a smart player. I was like, well, anybody should have called a timeout right there. You have them, use them. Because I knew they were not going to get back. I knew they were going to either they're going to have a free play where they can just throw it up and have no ramifications. And a lot of times, no plays. It ain't the fact that the guy catches the ball. It's the fact that we haven't set our defense, and you get a PI, and they get to place the ball, at the 1 yard line. And obviously, you stand a huge chance of not winning the game at that point. So, just calling the timeout was the right thing to do right there. And after the timeout, I was just pissed. I mean, what can I tell you? I was just mad. And I said some things that I wish. I don't necessarily wish I could take them back. But I said some things that I probably shouldn't have said because that was just the boiling up of 0-10, right?
Right.
Luckily, we went on and won the game, and I think Co and Khalil and everyone involved learned a valuable lesson there. That don't celebrate when the offensive line is lining up and has an opportunity to throw the ball in the end zone.
Exactly. Good. 2 words: situational awareness. Yeah. It matters.
Yeah.
So again, all right, that's how you finished your playing career. But like you said, you were done at 32, so you had an amazing career yet to come. We'll take our next final break with Justin. We'll come back and talk about what he's done since his playing days are over. Coming right back. Stay with us. Fire up your tailgate because the NFL is back, people. Get into the action with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. And with the NFL returning, DraftKings is giving new customers $200 in free bets instantly when you bet $1 or more on any football game. Now listen up because you don't want to miss out on this offer. Head to the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and place a bet of $1 or more on any Week 1 game to receive $200 in free bets instantly. And if Sportsbook is not yet available in your state, DraftKings still has huge cash prizes up for grabs all season long with their daily fantasy contests. And for Week 1, DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at a $1 million top prize. Nothing adds to the excitement of watching a game quite like having a free shot at $1 million as the top prize. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the promo code WINGO to receive $200 in free bets when you place a $1 bet on any football game. And get a free shot at $1 million top prize with your first deposit. That's promo code WINGO this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer and restrictions do apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT. All right, finishing up here with Justin Tuck. As you said at the start of this, your playing career was done at 32. You had to do something else. But tell me how you decided to do what you did, which is go get a degree from the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania and turn that into a career at Goldman Sachs.
I mean, the short answer is me and my wife, we have 2 sons, Jason and Jonah, and every time we get the chance to eat dinner together, we do this thing called Favorite Part of the Day. And for 3 weeks of retirement, my favorite part of the day, if I didn't lie to my kids, was I played golf and had a really good beer on the 19th hole. right? And it really dawned on me very quickly that they were never going to remember any of the things that we've talked about previously, right? They weren't going to remember number 91 in Giants lore. They weren't going to remember the Super Bowls. They would probably see replays of it, but they're not. The legacy that I was leaving for them at that point in time was this lazy bum sitting on the couch watching Trey Wingo talk about things that he don't understand. He doesn't understand that well. Yeah, so when they're 21 years old or whatever that time frame is where they need to go out and be who they need to be as men, I wasn't going to be a good role model to them. So I started really contemplating, what's my next chapter? What do I want to do? How do I want to use the platform that I have to help people? And I started talking to a lot of people. When I played in the NFL, the thing that I think I did was the smartest thing I did was when I was hot, coming off a Pro Bowl, coming off a big game, coming off a Super Bowl, whatever it may be, I tried to find people in New York City and the surrounding areas that I could go and take the dinner or take the coffee and pick their brain about the things they did for a living. Well, that was hedge fund managers, private equity principals,
right?
Owners of businesses, real estate, all these different sectors, tech. And I would try to find people who were huge Giants fans. I was just looking in the suites and saying, okay, that guy, he looks like important. Who is that guy? Who is that girl? Who is that? And go take them to dinner and pick their brain about the things they've done and pick their brain about their story. So I had a lot of relationships with people who were in business, and I just started asking them questions about things they knew about me and what that translated into in the business world. So that led me to apply for Wharton. My wife had been down there. She graduated with a master's from the University of Pennsylvania in social policy in 2012. So I'd seen her process of going back to school with kids and so on and so forth. I felt confident I could do the same thing. Had 11 days to get a GMAT score that was acceptable for the number one business school in the world. Was able to do that. And again, it was just off to the races at that point. Got down there, and I'm the 32, 33-year-old kid that has no experience whatsoever in actually working in a business field, and I'm competing with these 24-year-olds who are on scholarship from Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan and Apple and whatever else it may be. So again, it was another challenge, and the reason why I did it, honestly, is because I just saw a need for players, athletes in entertainment, and people in general to have more representation in the space. Someone who understood what it takes to, work a 24/7 job, which is being an athlete, and still having to have an understanding around your finances, because we've heard so many stories and saw many stories of these people who have made tons of money and don't have anything to show for it once their careers are over or 5 years out. So that was my motivation, and that was the thing that allowed me to wake up every morning was a level of gratitude of having the opportunity to be in the situation I am. Driving down there, 4 days a week, 2 hours down, 2 hours back, that gets old. So if you don't have a motivation around what you're doing and why you're doing it, you'll most likely lax and not accomplish the goal that you set forth for yourself.
So what's the next thing for Justin Tuck? Like, have you thought about the next goal you want to achieve?
You know what? I have. I'm thinking about writing a book. I'm thinking about, honestly, just growing my team at Goldman Sachs. I'm making some hires around the people I want to work with. I'm, trying to, understand everything there is about the clients that I work for and how to better service them. And, in the role that I'm in, I hate saying this, but honestly, I'm kind of forced to being a jack of all trades because I have to understand enough about every sector, about everything in finance, because you never know what that call is going to be like. When that phone rings and it's a partner of Goldman Sachs or it's a big client, you don't know what they're going to ask you about, but they expect you to have the answer. So I'm just constantly diving into the education of what's going on in the markets and what's going on in this world, and just being that much more prepared for the unknown, I guess. So what's next for me? It's a day by day thing of just always trying to better yourself in the things that I work in. You know, me and my wife are very passionate about our philanthropy efforts, figuring out what's the next board I want to be on and how I want to lend my expertise to that. Those type of things really intrigue me, and I probably lose a lot of sleep on that question, Trey, but it's exciting though.
Well, listen, I feel pretty confident that whatever you decide to do, you'll be pretty good at it. And I think it makes all the sense in the world now that I'm putting it together that a guy who had 4 sacks and 2 Super Bowls, of course, he's going to work for Goldman Sachs. It just made all the sense in the world. Hey, listen, man, I appreciate your time. I know it's precious. I appreciate you being with me. I've always enjoyed your friendship over the years. I look forward to whatever it is you're going to conquer next, because I'm sure that's the way it's going to turn out.
Well, thank you, Trey. And stop dodging the golf game. It's been, I think, 4 years now. So, yeah, whenever you want to get beat, let me know.
Done. And that will happen. All right, thanks once again to Justin Tuck. Always love to see what people are doing post-career, and he is doing really, really well. And thanks to our friends at Starbucks Triple Shot Energy Drink. It's amazing. It's everything you need in a can to get you through whatever you need to get through. And it's delicious. Speaking of delicious, that's our next guest coming up on the next episode of Half Forgotten History. It's about golf, the Ryder Cup, the Euros versus the Americans. And who better to break that all down with than a man who's been in that fire pit and has captained the U.S. team to victory in 2008. We'll sit down and talk Ryder Cup golf with Paul Azinger on next week's episode. We'll see you then.